I've been looking forward to this one for a while. We're only human. We all say dumb shit. We all say shit that doesn't always age very well. And the same applies for sports. And while a lot of people, they would rather forget about what they said or just pretend it didn't happen, I don't see why we shouldn't look back and laugh and celebrate the stupid shit that we said. I think it's fun to just look back and see how much of a dumbass you may have been. And that's not an insult. It happens to the best of us. Not every sports take we have is it going to come to fruition or is it going to happen. We're all going to say stuff that ends up coming true, hopefully, and we're all going to say stuff that doesn't come true. Some people have a lot more terrible takes than others. I'm looking at you. But nonetheless, I was actually really surprised at how many people were willing to share the bad takes that they had. That made me think that a lot of you share the same opinion I do, where we should just look back and laugh at it because it's fucking funny. So without further ado, I'm going to give my top 3 worst takes, at least from what I can remember. And then I'm going to look through some of yours because I had plenty of comments and I wanted to give my thoughts on some of them. So to me, there's 2 different kinds of bad takes. There's one where at the time, saying whatever was said makes sense to a certain degree. And then, it just doesn't age well. Something happens, it doesn't go the way that most people thought, and then what you said back then makes you seem dumb. And then there's the kind of bad take that always seemed dumb. You just say something that's so incredibly outlandish that there was never a chance of it happening or coming true, and that's just that. It was always a bad take. But yeah, so basically there's bad takes that just don't age well because of unforeseen circumstances, and then there's bad takes that are just flat out bad. For example, what I mean by the flat out bad takes, I'm not going to say any names because I don't want to shame him. He would think it's funny that I'm saying this, but one of my best friends, I don't remember which year it was because I know there were a couple. I had a very close friend who on a live radio show said that the Cleveland Browns were going to make the playoffs that next season. And me and my other co-host looked at each other and we thought he was messing around. Like, we thought he was just fucking with us. And then we realized he was serious. And I looked at him and I was like, dude, like, they'll be lucky if they win 4 games. Like, that would be an accomplishment to win 4. And you think they're going to make the playoffs? And he was like, yeah, no, I'm dead serious. And we were like, okay, fine. The Browns proceeded to win exactly 0 games that next season. And it was just the funniest thing because we had a weekly radio show and we would go on there. And every week, they would lose again and be like, hey man, like, how's that prediction going? We would just shame him. And it was all fun and games. We weren't actually being malicious or anything, but it was just a funny bit to keep bringing up that awful, awful take. But that's kind of what I mean by a just flat out terrible take. With my top 3, I think there's one of those, and that's the one I consider the worst. And then there's 2 that I had that just didn't age well. I was also really happy that I went through all of the Twitter and Instagram comments, and I only saw one person that had something similar. I was just about through all of the comments, and I didn't see it at all. And I was going to be really happy if I was the only dumbass who had this take. But unfortunately, this guy had it. He said it a little differently than I said it. But nonetheless, here it goes. I thought Jared Sullinger was going to be the next great Celtics big man. Definitely not my brightest moment. To be fair, I was like 15 at the time. He was putting together stretches of really, really good games. I remember there was a game against Toronto where he had I think it was 25 and 20. I think he had 25 points and 20 rebounds. The reason why I thought he was going to be the next great Celtics big man was because his rebounding ability was insane. His body was just different. He was really, like, he could move for a big guy. He always seemed to know where to be. He was always in the right place. And he just, like, his body was just so big. It created its own little bubble in the paint. And if he was in the right spot, he was getting that rebound. Because the bubble that his body created, it made it so easy for him to just box out literally everybody. And there's nothing they could do about it. They just didn't have the size or the strength to compete with Sully. But I loved Sully. I had his jersey. I would wear it all the time. And I truly thought he was going to be the next great Celtic. I thought that was going to happen if he stayed healthy and in shape. And he did not. But I feel like that's pretty much all there is to say about that one. It was bad. That's definitely my worst take ever. My next two takes, there were a lot of comments for both of these that also had the same ones. This next one is also Celtics related, and it has to do with everyone's favorite Celtic, Kyrie Irving.
Oh! Ew! Dude! What the fuck?
When they traded for Kyrie, I was freaking hyped. I was like, damn, like the Celtics just got the guy who won game 7 in the final minute in one of the greatest NBA Finals series of all time. Like, that guy's a Celtic now. He's one of the best players in the league. This is freaking awesome. And I was like, it's the Celtics. Like, he's going to re-sign when his contract's up, and he's going to be a Celtic for life, and he's probably going to win us a few titles. And, you know, he did say that he was going to re-sign, and then all hell broke loose. And it just went so horribly wrong. And I just remember that season, the final season, I was so annoyed because the Celtics, top to bottom, had one of the most talented rosters across the league, and they just couldn't get it together. You know, egos were clashing, there was no leadership, there was no chemistry, and that's ultimately why it got broken up. You know, that's one of the ones where, you know, it's Kyrie. And coming off that last final series that he was just in, I would say that that was a reasonable thing to say, you know, to be excited about him coming to Boston and to think that he may one day bring you a title. But I did think that was going to happen, and that's another bad one. My last one is the most recent one that's bad. You know, I didn't outright say this, but the fact that I was feeling this way is bad. Antonio Brown. Remember that? He was a Patriot for a whole week and a half. But, you know, so he was released from the Raiders, and then people were making jokes, you know, Belichick's going to pick him up, the Patriots are going to sign him, ha ha ha. I thought the memes are funny. I went with it. I thought it was a joke. I really didn't take it seriously at all. And then all of a sudden, I still remember this very vividly. I had just gotten out of the movies. I saw It Chapter 2. And I got out, looked at my phone, and I had like 20 billion notifications about Antonio Brown. And I was like, you are joking. Like, we just got the best receiver in the league. Like, are you fucking serious? And, you know, at that point, we were looking great. We had Brown, Edelman, Gordon, Demaryius Thomas, Philip Dorsett, along with, you know, the pass-catching backs like James White and Rex Burkhead. I was like, we're set to succeed, man. I said this. I didn't put it out anywhere, but I did say it. I was like, if this holds together, how can we not make the Super Bowl? Like, we already knew we had a pretty freaking good defense, and they dominated for most of the year. But with all that firepower on offense, I was just like, there is no way we are not making the Super Bowl. We are too stacked. Not only did they lose in the wild card weekend, we lost Brown, we lost Demaryius Thomas, we lost Josh Gordon. Edelman was playing with one limb, and Dorsett was also banged up. Yeah, that's another bad one. But yeah, when the Patriots first signed Antonio Brown, I was pumped. I'm pretty sure the entire Patriots fan base has this take, so I don't feel that special because, like, it's Antonio Brown. Everybody was excited. Like, that's not a joke, and you shouldn't feel shame in saying that. But looking back on it now, it was a huge disaster, and all those good thoughts we had initially quickly turned to ash. Okay, so now, you know, there were plenty of comments on my Twitter and Instagram of your guys' bad takes, so I wanted to go through some of those and give my comments on the ones that I wanted to comment on. And I did say, you know, if you comment, I may or may not put them in the video. So don't get mad. And also, we are not laughing at you. We are laughing with you. Because, again, we've all said dumb shit. Okay, so this one. I legitimately thought Aaron Hernandez was going to be better than Gronk. Okay, looking back on that one, like, oof. And obviously, nobody knew he freaking killed people. But as far as talent goes, I don't think that's too bad of a take. And I say that because, well, first of all, I loved Aaron Hernandez. You know, pre-finding out that he fucking gutted people. I had just gotten his jersey like 3 months before that news came out. I know, great timing. You know, we were running the 2 tight end sets, and it was with the top 2 tight ends in the league. I mean, people forget how good Aaron Hernandez was. Like, he was a good freaking tight end. And I thought if he had spent his entire career with Brady, similar to the way Gronk did, that he would have maybe not as much success, but something of that nature. So to say that he may have been better if his career had continued to trend the way it was, I don't think that's too outlandish to say. Looking back on it now with everything that happened, that's really bad. But this guy thinking we had the series in the bag after beating Milwaukee in Game 1 last year. Yeah, that's pretty awful. And it's awful because not only did they not win another game that series, but they got pretty much smoked in every single one. Kyrie basically shot them out of that series. I remember after Game 1, I was nervous as hell going into the series, and I was like, damn, like, they came to play. Like, if they're going to be this ferocious on defense, like, they have a chance. I didn't think it was in the bag or anything. I never went that far because it was only one game. But I was like, okay, like, we did this in Milwaukee too. Like we're going to fight for it. Like, let's do this thing. I was wrong. And, this guy said I was in the bag. That was really wrong. This guy thinking the 2018 Patriots were done after the Steelers loss. Well, you're not alone. There's a lot of national media people that thought that, that after that game, that was at that point in the season, that was when everybody jumped on the Patriots are done bandwagon. I didn't, because I had learned better, because I had been part of that camp prior seasons, and they proved me wrong, and I was done doubting. I just wasn't that naive anymore, and I wasn't going to get burned by the same flame multiple times. But Matt, that was a perfectly reasonable thing to think at the time. I thank you for you giving them your hate to motivate them to succeed. This guy, I was so mad that the Celtics weren't able to get Fultz and got Tatum in 2017. I saw a couple different ones of people saying that they thought Fultz was going to be better than Tatum. I wasn't a huge college basketball guy at the time, so I wasn't fully aware of every player's skill sets. But I trusted Danny. I trusted his judgment. I saw a couple of comments saying that, their worst take was that the Celtics got robbed in that trade. It's the complete opposite. We completely fleeced the 76ers. We traded down and got another pick out of it, and still took the best player of the top three of that draft. This guy, when the C's drafted R.J. Hunter, I was convinced he was going to be the next Steph Curry. That was a dark time in my life. It sounds like it. That kind of sounds like my Sully take. Sully could rebound. He was a good big man. I said that he's going to be the next great one. R.J. Hunter could shoot. You said he was going to be the next Steph Curry. Pretty similar, just different players. I think the slight difference is that at least Sully had some good games. He had stretches where he was showing what his potential could be on a consistent basis. R.J. Hunter really, unless I'm forgetting something, I don't remember a lot of games where R.J. Hunter, one, had significant amount of playing time, or two, really did anything with the playing time he got. This guy said in 2013, I said, Poppy isn't that clutch. I don't know if he's clutch enough for this moment. Yeah, I don't know why he thought Poppy wasn't clutch at that point already, to begin with, because he had shown that he was plenty of times. But for you to say that, and then that playoff run hit, the clutchest grand slam of all time, that's pretty rough. That's absolutely terrible timing. This one's... Oof. In 2008, I said it's time to move on from Brady for Matt Castle. Thank the Lord that they didn't do that. We would have 3 less championships, and I'd have a lot less memories with Brady. Saying the Eagles were scrubs and we were going to whoop him. There were a lot of people saying that. I had a lot of friends who thought that. I don't take any of that shit for granted in the Super Bowl because it seems like no matter what, the game's always close. To that point, we had been to 7 Super Bowls, and all 7 of them were close. They were good games. There were 0 blowouts, and I didn't think that was going to change. Sometimes history repeats itself, and I thought that it was going to continue to do so. And sure enough, it was close. We were on the wrong end of it, but that's that. We should have drafted Josh Jackson over Tatum. I don't really have to say much on why that's bad. There were also a good amount of people who thought KD was coming to the Celtics. I didn't include this in my top 3 because I didn't outright think it, but I did think there was a really good possibility. And the reason for that is because, from what I remember, the final 3 teams were the Heat, the Celtics, and the Warriors. And the Heat, they weren't that good. And I was like, if they add KD, like, they still need more, like, to win. Like, they're just not there yet. And, you know, with the Warriors, I was like, there's no way that Durant's going to go to the team that just came down from 3-1 to beat him and won 73 games during the regular season. There's just no way he's going to join that team because they're already the favorites to win. There's just no way he's not going to do that. That would destroy his image. So I thought the Celtics had a really good chance of getting him. You know, hearing after the fact that he almost did sign, he saw Brady and he saw all the different faces, and he knew that if he did, there was a good chance he would be cemented in Boston sports history. And hearing that quote, he almost just said, you know what, fuck it, like, give me the papers, I'm signing now. Hearing how close we were to getting that caliber of a player, that was infuriating to me. And the fact that he picked Golden State, that team, over us, that stung so bad, and I hated it. But I did think it was a good possibility that he did come here, but I didn't outright say he's going to. A couple more just to end it off. This Cyrus Jones guy seems like a good pick. This guy, game is over, Brady's really about to be 4-3 in Super Bowls. Proceeds to play pool. Well, I don't know if you heard, my man, but you missed a pretty spectacular game. Last major one that I see a lot of people saying are Brady, saying that Brady wasn't going to leave. I almost put this in my top 3, but I didn't because I didn't outright say that he's staying. At least not that I remember. I might have. I said I thought he was going to very strongly. And then I had some tweets that, you know, they were joking about him staying, but they were memes, right? I wasn't serious. But I did think that, you know, I was like 90% sure he was going to stay. And I was very wrong. I always knew that there was a slight possibility that he may leave. But I just couldn't see it happening. But yeah, I've made other videos touching on that, so I'm not going to get into it again. But I almost put that on my list too. I was ranking, you know, my takes based off of, you know, 1, how bad they were, and 2, like, are they bad enough so that other people aren't saying it? Like, are they so bad that you are the only one that were saying it? Because, you know, if I, like my Sullinger one, I only saw one other person say it. And that made me feel like a special kind of dumbass because nobody else was as stupid as to say that. I almost forgot to talk about this one. I probably should have said this a lot earlier. But there were a lot of people who were saying that they had the take of wanting to stick with Bledsoe and not going with Brady back when Bledsoe got hurt. And obviously, you know, I was 3 at the time. So I didn't have a take. I don't remember that shit. But I can only imagine, you know, as a fan, you know, because Bledsoe was pretty good. I can only imagine sitting there and not knowing what was about to happen. And I could imagine that, you know, I may have had that take, you know, because if you have a good quarterback and one comes in and he looks promising, but like you still have a good one, you know, I can totally see why you would want to stick with the original good thing that you had. Obviously, looking back, I think it's safe to say they made the right choice, but who would have thought? But yeah, those are my worst sports takes, and those are a lot of yours. If I didn't get to you guys, if you want to talk about it, comment below. Let me know what your worst Boston sports take is. As always, like and subscribe, and yeah.